This video was produced by The Top Cut. Be sure to check out thetopcut.net, your home for Pokemon TCG, tournament coverage, professional game analysis, and interviews with the best players in the world. Thanks for watching. Hey everybody, this is Puka bringing you the top 8 of the Ohio State Championship. This is Game 1 between Nicholas Baker on the left and Anthony Harper on the right. Now, in this format, we've seen a lot of new decks come about. You know, we've seen a lot of Mewtwo. We've seen the Celebi Mewtwo Tornadus deck, Zekrom Electric, and Durant. Those have kind of been the three big decks of the format, and we've also seen the Terrakion deck show its face here and there. But in this top 8 matchup, we kind of have a blast from the past. It's two Magnezone Electric decks, or if you're a viewer of our show, we call it the Thunderdome here. So, a mirror match here between two decks that, well, really don't see a whole lot of success in this format so far. So, this is from the first week of States, so there are still people playing this Magnezone Electric deck, and they're having some success. So, we're going to see a good old-fashioned mirror match here. Of course, they did add a few new cards to the deck. As you can see, Anthony does have that Zekrom EX on his bench, so we'll see how these new cards kind of impact the mirror match and who will come out ahead. So, both players seems like they have a pretty strong start. They will start with Pokemon Collector. This will allow them to search out their basics. You can search for 3 basics, which will allow you to either grab a support Pokemon like Cleffa, which is what Nicholas did, or just get the Pokemon you need and start being aggressive like what Anthony's doing. So, right off the bat, we see some new additions from Anthony in his Thunderdome. Mewtwo EX, of course, is the big one, and you know that Zekrom EX is there as well. So it looks like he is gearing up for some very early aggression with this Mewtwo EX. And if he has a double colorless energy, he can start using X-Ball on the first turn, hit for 40 damage, which can knock out a Cleffa. If he had a catcher, he could also catch out a Tynamo and X-Ball those for a knockout. So, when you're thinking about the Magnezone Electric mirror match, you might be wondering what the key to winning this is. And really, this is sort of a complex mirror match. It can go either way. There are a lot of factors that go into it. The first thought that might go through your head is, well, if I just knock out all of his electrics, he won't have any energy acceleration, and he'll run out of gas and he'll lose. That's one way to go about it. Certainly, if he does not have any electrics in play, your opponent will eventually fall apart and lose. Okay, and then we do see X-Ball here. So Anthony getting the first prize very quickly. Knocking out Cleffa and putting pressure on Nicholas, but it looks like he's got a solid start. So, knocking out the electrics, that is one way to go about it. The other way to go about it is to target your opponent's Magnezones. Since those normally are the big attackers, I guess nowadays, if you're playing a card like Zekrom EX, the story could be a little different. But in the past, the mirror match really came down to, oh, if I have a Magnezone in play and you don't, then you're just kind of going to run out of gas because you don't have Magnetic Draw to fall back on. You know, these decks don't really play a lot of supporters. They really rely on Magnezone's Magnetic Draw to refill their hand. So, if you can take the Magnezone out of play and then use an N to put your opponent at a low hand size, they might just run out of stuff to do, and you can win just based on the fact that they're going to fizzle out, and you'll overpower them just by having more cards in your hand and more options. So, there's really a lot of ways to go about this, but what seemed like a promising start for both people is now turned into, well, Zekrom is attacking Mewtwo, and Mewtwo's just using X-Ball. So, not sure if Anthony plays Cleffa or anything like that, but if he does, you know, he definitely decided, hey, I don't even care. I am going on the offensive, and I'm going to hope to top deck into a way out of this mess. His hand isn't that great. If he could have gotten Cleffa, he would have maybe gone for a Magnezone, but he's probably thinking, okay, if I go for Cleffa, I'm just going to be a turn behind, so I'm just going to start attacking with Mewtwo. I mean, why not? If my opponent doesn't have an answer, this is going to work pretty well. And it has worked pretty well so far. He'll get a second knockout here on this Zekrom. Mewtwo might get knocked out next turn, but that's okay. He'll have taken 2 prizes, which is a pretty fair trade. 2 for 2. Of course, Mewtwo is an EX, so it gives up 2 prizes. And now we got that Magneton into play. If he can get a Magnezone out, it'll be just great. And uh-oh, here comes the other Mewtwo. And now, Anthony certainly is the one in some trouble here. He is staring down that fully powered Mewtwo EX with 170 hit points using X-Ball. And his Mewtwo is gone. But, alright, he does have a Magnezone in play. One of the ways he can respond is getting his own Mewtwo back. Not sure how many Mewtwo EXs he plays in his deck. Usually when you play Magnezone, you don't really need multiple Mewtwo EXs, but who knows? You can never really assume anything when you're playing. You can't just assume, oh, well, there's no way he's playing that. He certainly could be. There's no reason why he wouldn't. People like to defy common sense sometimes and play way more copies of a card than they should, and I can definitely see that being the case with Mewtwo. So, if you were to get an Electric into play and use Dynamotor onto a Mewtwo EX, and then another double colorless energy, he could X-Ball for another knockout here. And, okay, it looks like he's not even going to try for that. He's just going to bring out Nicholas's Electric. So, it looks like Anthony is taking this route where he's saying, okay, I'm just going to try to take all of your Electrics out of play and go from there. So, he does draw, well, a whole lot of nothing. Oh, he actually gets Super Rod, which is a pretty big deal. He could shuffle that Mewtwo back in his deck, and he will. He maybe could have used Junk Arm for the communication first, and then play the Super Rod. But, doesn't really matter. He does get Mewtwo EX back in the deck, which is the important part. So, he really would have hoped to get an Electric this turn, and he's just going to play an N. He wants to get Electric out, I think, and really get a Dynamotor off this turn. It's not too likely anymore because there are no Lightning Energy in his discard pile. So, in order to pull off a Lost Burn this turn, he would need to draw Electric, Junk Arm, and a Lightning Energy, and he's only getting 4 cards, so pretty high chance we're not going to see Anthony do a whole lot of anything this turn besides pass. Looks like he does get the Electric, though. See, he's going to play a Cleffa down, so okay. Yep, nothing really coming out of him for this turn, and he's actually going to Eek. So there is a Cleffa in his deck. Go figure. So he's just going to Eek, get a hand of 6 cards, and go from there. And the ball is back in Nicholas's court. Of course, his first hurdle is to get this Electric out of the active spot. And he really needs to get that Magnezone into play. He might have messed up his bench a little bit. He has 2 Magnemites and a Magneton. And then spots for 2 Electrics, which one is a Tynamo, one is an Electric. In the future, if he wanted to switch gears to like a Zekrom, he wouldn't be able to unless one of his Pokemon that are out there right now gets knocked out. And that's never really a spot you want to be. And you want to be able to just say, okay, I need a Zekrom in play right now. I don't want to Lost Zone all my energy. I don't want to attack with my Mewtwo EX. I want to just attack with a normal Zekrom. I don't want to send all my energy to the Lost Zone. So I want to use Zekrom. But he doesn't have that option available because his bench is full. So this is something you always got to watch out for. Don't overextend your bench. Otherwise, you can get in weird situations. Doesn't look like it'll be a problem right now, but it certainly can be. It's one of the top things I see players do wrong. Just mismanaging your bench space and playing down too much stuff when you really don't have to. So we are definitely going to see Nicholas get something off this turn. Whether it's X-Ball or Lost Burn. He's got pretty much everything he needs at this point. He's got that switch in his hand. He's got 2 Dynamotors to work with. And really he can do whatever he wants. And he's going to decide to send up Mewtwo and use X-Ball. Questionable choice because you saw Anthony did Super Rod his own Mewtwo back in the deck. So if he were to X-Ball, he would get down to 2 prizes. But then if he took that risk, then Nicholas would be able to Lost Burn the Mewtwo and he'd be down to 1 prize. So Mewtwo at this point is pretty safe, you know. I actually like that play because, well, your opponent really can't do anything about it. If he uses his own Mewtwo, he's probably lost the game. And I don't really like Anthony's position at all. And he is targeting down Electric again. I don't think that's going to be particularly effective at this point. When you just look at it, there are already 4 energy on Nicholas's board. You know, you can target down Electric when it's very few energy on your opponent's board. That way you deny them the energy acceleration. But when it gets to this point and there's already 4 energy on his board, and actually there's 5, I apologize. You really want to target down attackers here because you want to knock stuff out that can really threaten you. So I would have liked to see him maybe target down the Magnezone here. But what's really holding him back is that there's no Lightning in his discard pile to use Dynamotor. But I think you kind of have to take a risk and say, alright, I'm going to draw a Junk Arm off of this N. And it looks like he did, and a Lightning. So honestly, I might want to see him grab Catcher and, hey, yeah, there you go. I might want to see him Catcher out his opponent's Magnezone because it'll take away all of his draw power. He end him down to a very low hand. And, you know, like I said earlier, if you don't have Magnezone in play, you don't run too many supporters. Normally the Magnezone Electric deck runs Sage's Training, not a great draw supporter, just kind of helps you draw rare candy so you can get your Magnezone. Then it plays N, which at this point is pretty much worthless as a draw card because you're only getting like 2 or 3 cards. And maybe sometimes people run Juniper, but that's not too likely. So I would like to see him Catcher out the Magnezone, take away all of Nicholas's draw power, and then it's pretty likely that he won't have anything to work with anymore. And yes, there we go. So this is one way that Anthony can kind of swing it around. He also has a second Electric in play, so I really like his board right now. It would be nice to have another Magnemite out there so we could evolve it, but oh, big draw off of the N. He gets Rare Candy Magnezone, and this is going to put Nicholas at a huge advantage. He's going to be able to knock out Anthony's only Magnezone in play, and really there's nothing he can do to respond unless he had 2 Lightning in the discard pile and then a Switch and a double colorless to respond with Zekrom EX's Strong Volt, and that's really, really unlikely. That's probably just not going to happen. And I think we're just going to see Nicholas Lost Burn for a bunch of prizes in a row and win the game. There's really nothing that Anthony can do to stop it at this point. And it's just, he got a little far behind. Nicholas got really lucky off his N to get a second Magnezone in play. I don't know what would have happened if he didn't get that Magnezone off of his N. I think he would have been really, really far behind. He would have been forced to attack with like a Mewtwo, and then it just gets ugly from there. But when he gets the Magnezone in play, everything's fine. And man, what do you do if you're Anthony besides shake your head? He did everything right there. He and put his opponent down to a 3-card hand, and then, oh, you had everything. Okay, there's nothing I can do about it. And Anthony's going to play a Sage. He's probably looking for 2 Lightning to put in the discard pile. Really, he needed a perfect Sage there where he got a double colorless and a switch or something like that. He really needs to attack with Zekrom EX this turn, or else he's not going to win. Unless maybe he stalls with a catcher to bring up Electric and buys himself some time. Otherwise, nope, there's no way he's going to win this game. So, alright, he's going to Sage, and he has to discard Thundurus. Looks like a Magnezone and something else, didn't quite catch it. Which means there are no Lightning in his discard pile, I don't think. And he has no way to use Magnetic Draw. His Magnezone got knocked out. So his hand is what it is. He can't draw anything else. He wants to be able to knock out this Magnezone, but he really can't. And, I mean, Nicholas is down to 2 prizes. And if he has a catcher, he can just knock out that Zekrom EX. And the game will actually be over. So Anthony's just trying to knock out that Magnezone before his Zekrom EX gets knocked out. And, okay, he's going for a Junk Arm here. We're probably going to see a catcher. Discards a plus power and a communication. And he catches out Electric. Yep. This is really the only thing he can do to buy time. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is right now. And maybe his Electric is even stuck in the active spot. I don't even know. He's just trying to figure out, is there any way I can get out of this mess? It's not looking good for me, but I'm going to do everything I can. Maybe I'll get lucky. And if you're Nicholas, you got to be thinking, alright, I'm in pretty good shape. My opponent's at 3 prizes to my 2. I know you can't see all of Anthony's prizes, but yes, he is down to 3 prizes, not 2. You can only see 2 on camera. The other one's off camera. He's only taken 3 prizes at this point. So, Nicholas is going to Collector for a Dynamo and then Communication. Let's see, might get another. Yep, there's another Magnezone. So, at this point, the game's pretty much over. As long as he draws into a switch to get that Electric out of his active spot, this game's pretty much done. Not much that Anthony can do to prevent a loss at this point. So, I'm expecting to see a switch here soon, or a Junk Arm for a switch. And then Anthony's probably just going to say, alright, you got this one, let's move on to game 2. Nicholas is going to Dynamotor first. You know, he's got an advantage in pretty much every way. He's got the Magnezones out, he's got the prize lead, and up there is that Junk Arm. He's going to get rid of some cards he doesn't really want anymore for the switch. And he's going to send a Magnezone and Lost Burn. And yes, Anthony's just saying, okay, you got this one. I understand this. That was a rough game for me. I pretty much went all in on my early Mewtwo, hoping it would do a lot of damage. It didn't do as much as I'd hoped. So, that's all there is to it. And let's move on to game 2 and forget this one ever happened. So, thanks for watching this game. Nicholas will defeat Anthony in game 1 of this best of 3 series. We'll see who can win the overall series and advance to the top 4 at the Ohio State Championship. So we'll be right back with Game 2.